I guess we'll get started. I'm here today to introduce our speaker, and his name is Dr. Robert Greenberg, and he used to be the CEO and former president of Second Sight Medical, and now he serves as the chairman of the board of directors. Second Sight is an extremely cool medical device company, and they focus on implantable prosthetic implants, and it helps mitigate some of the complications that arise from blindness. So we're extremely excited to be here. Let's give a warm welcome to Dr. Robert Greenberg.
So we have to show a quick slide that Second Sight is now it is a public company, and so I have to tell you that I can't tell the future, and I have no idea what the future is. Our Second Sight was founded with the idea that we could treat blindness by electrically stimulating the retina of patients. And this is very similar in concept to cochlear implants. So these are devices. There's another company here in town, in Alessia, called Advanced Bionics, that has cochlear implants, electrical stimulators that restore hearing to the deaf. And so the thought was, could we do the same thing for blindness? There are about 39 million people who are legally blind worldwide, huge number of people. Most of those, fortunately, are treatable, and unfortunately, they may or may not have access to treatment, things like cataracts and things that here in the Western world would be treated. But there are about 8 million patients who are blind due to causes that are untreatable today. There's no treatment, and those include things like glaucoma, infection, and other diseases, diabetic retinopathy. So there are about 6 million patients who today still are untreatable. I'll talk a little bit later. We have a clinical trial going on right now in the UK for a disease some of you may have heard of, macular degeneration. But the thing I'll talk the most about is retinitis pigmentosa, is the disease that we're currently treating, and the device is commercial in both the US and Europe to treat this disease. And it's a hereditary blindness. It's relatively rare. There's still hundreds of thousands of patients that are impacted by this. In the U.S., there are about 100,000 patients with RP, and about 25,000 of those are legally blind due to the disease. Cool. The Argus 2 that we'll talk more about is a result of over 16 years of research and development. We've implanted over 200 of these so far. And I'll just start with just a quick video as an overview that was on Bloomberg to give you a sense of the technology.
Now, in this week's edition of Wiring the World, the bionic eye may sound like science fiction, but now it is a reality. Bloomberg's Rami Inocencio has that story.
Wait, see some waves here.
For Alan's errand, many firsts. With wife Carmen at his side, it's his first time seeing the famous Ferris wheel in Santa Monica here. The thing is, he's totally blind. Has been the past 25 years from incurable eye decay called retinitis pigmentosa. But since February, he's seeing again with this wearable by Los Angeles-based Second Sight.
What I see is a series of flashes of light, and the brighter ones, obviously, like a door handle or a doorknob or a frame or something like that, I'll be able to see that is what it is.
This is how it works. A camera on a pair of glasses transmits images wirelessly to a layer of 60 tiny electrodes on the retina inside the eyeball. Alan can't see fine features. The Argus 2 is still limited, but he did see his wife again this February as the world's 15th person with thesis.
Carmen.
Yes.
Greenberg.
Today, another first. Alan meets Bob Greenberg, the man behind his Second Sight.
Give it a shot and see what happens.
Bob also checks Alan's vision. Walking a white line on a black mat.
I lost the line as I started walking.
Over a series of tries. So, what do people see? Bob puts me in the simulator.
This is a half moon. This is a triangle. This is a circle.
Outside the research lab, Alan keeps exploring. This week at Disneyland.
Oh, nice.
Seeing Mickey Mouse,
And it's a shape like that.
Enchanted Castle, and this.
Oh, there.
Technology. Wiring up eyes to the world for a chance at Second Sight.
So there was a fair amount of technology that we had to develop to make this possible. And there was some really tough engineering problems. So this is the device that you just saw, the glasses. The externals were relatively straightforward. We were able to take advantage of cell phone cameras. So a very small camera that we mounted in a city of Oakley, or another local company in Orange County, and was very supportive early on. And then basically a computer and radio transmitter was the technology for the externals. Most of the development went on the implant, and some of the challenges were that we were trying to miniaturize electronics and put them in the body. So that was like imagine taking your television, throwing it in the ocean. The body's a saltwater environment, having it still work. So we have to come up with a way to protect that electronic, but we also have to shrink it down to something to be small enough that initially we were trying to put it inside the eye. The eye is about a 1-inch ball, and we realized it was going to be very difficult to do that. We ended up coming up with this idea of putting most of the electronics out and around the eye. So once this is implanted, it's put in the patients. It's an hour-and-a-half surgery. It's an outpatient procedure. Patients go home the same day. And once it's implanted, you can't see it. Patients can't feel it. It essentially becomes part of their eye. But kind of the business side of this was the electrode array that goes inside the eye. And so this part actually sits on the back of the eye on the inside surface. It's called the retina. It's neural tissue. It's incredibly delicate, and that was another one of the big challenges. Was the retina is like 1-ply wet tissue paper. So if you touch it, if you almost look at it, it can detach and you can damage it. We were trying to put something in contact with that tissue and leave it there for many, many years. And the eye, of course, is moving, so anything you put there has some inertia and it's going to tend to tear that retina. So coming up with materials that would survive was kind of it. We ended up taking kind of an Edison approach in a way. We ended up trying just dozens and dozens of materials before we found things that worked.
What did you find that worked?
So there were a couple things that we found that worked. One was a proprietary polymer that we developed in-house. So we basically started with, so it's basically a very soft plastic that we use to interface with the retina. We also have a two-polymer solution. So there's a harder polymer that holds the metal traces, and the metal traces are made of platinum, so something very inert. And then we have a softer silicone rubber that, so it's kind of this two-pronged approach. The harder plastic supported these very fine, they were 25 microns wide, little photodeposited layers of platinum. So that was another aspect of this, that we wanted to have as many electrodes as possible, given that it was 60 in the initial design. And producing 60 wires that are only 25 microns thick would be almost impossible to do manually. So we ended up using what's known as a MEMS type approach, or the way chips are made in a photographic process. So these things are made photographically. I'll come back to that later because it's important as we design new devices. Essentially, we just need to design a new negative now, and then we can run through the same production line to produce different geometry arrays, different shape arrays. And it was really important early on as we were developing, allowed us to iterate the design quickly because we could come up with new shapes of electrodes. So it was a combination of it's more of a materials problem than anything, I guess. The electrode material itself, it turned out in these small electrodes, which are only 200 microns in diameter, even platinum would dissolve at these dimensions when we put electrical current through it. So neurostimulators all use platinum. So there's neurostimulators for deep brain stimulation, for epilepsy, for Parkinson's, for spinal cord, cochlear implants. All of them use platinum because platinum is very inert, and they use chunks of platinum. But in this case, we were putting very, very thin layers. We were actually evaporating the platinum and having it deposit on the surface of these polymers. And at these very thin layers, with these very small dimensions, even platinum would dissolve. So we had to develop a new material. And we ended up developing something that we call platinum gray, which was an electroplate. It was still platinum, but we electroplated it and tweaked the parameters of the electroplating in such a way that we increased increase the surface area of the plasma, so we made it rough. So you could put more, you had more surface area, so you could put more current through the electrode. So, and that led to kind of this long-term reliability, which was really critical for getting FDA approval. Even before the FDA would let us do a single patient, the question was, will the device last? They didn't want to let us put a single device in a patient until we could prove to them through bench testing, through soap testing in hot salt water that simulated the body environment, that the device would hold up. And and these were various solutions, but that turned out to be a much bigger challenge than we thought going in. And are probably the result of maybe a third of the 300 plus patents that the company has.
So how long does it last? What's in the body?
So we have bench data that the hot salt water data that says it should last more than 10 years. The longest patient implant that we have now is about 8 years, and we have about 200 of these implanted now, and they're very high reliability, so like 99%.
And can it be replaced, or is it sort of a one-time?
It can be. So you can explant it, and we have explanted some. We have yet to explant and then reimplant because the reasons we've explanted have all been medical reasons. So they haven't wanted to reimplant because of medical complications. But you should be able to explant and reimplant. We did do that in animals, but we haven't done it in patients.
How robust is the accuracy?
So how do we secure the device to the back of the retina? And it turns out it's very robust. Early on, we had a lot of problems with that. We tried different ways of adhering this to the retina. So first we tried adhering with glues to the retina. Of course, this big heavy thing, even though it was relatively light, would tear the retina. Ultimately, the solution ended up being a small spring-loaded micro tack, which is also a micro machine that's about the width of a human hair. A single tack that just holds this in place and goes into the white of the eye, which is actually more robust and it's thicker. So we basically anchor it in the white of the eye was the solution. There's some strain reliefs that we developed as well, and so it ended up being simple from the surgeon's perspective. I mean, the single tack, but the technology, because it's a micro spring and the strain relief on this ended up being fairly complex.
I saw that you guys are working to connect this with the object in the future. Is that you're going to start getting around the limitations?
Yeah. So one of the challenges of this approach, and I'll get to this later, is this requires that the optic nerve, the cable going from the eye to the back of the brain, be intact. So you can only treat pieces of the retina with this approach. And the retina is like a multi-layer cake. And so fortunately, people with retinitis pigmentosa or macular degeneration, the bottom layer is dead, but the other layers that form the optic nerve are still intact. So those are amenable to stimulating the retina. For patients whose optic nerve are damaged, we need to go deeper in the system. So we've developed a system I'll talk about towards the end of the talk called the Orion, where we use that photographic technique to make a different electrode array. Take the same electronics and we're going to directly put that on the surface of the brain. So we're just finishing our animal studies of that right now. We'll be applying this year, and early next year we'll be doing clinical trials, which is direct brain access. That's our most exciting something that the company's won. So the Argus is currently available in about 35 centers worldwide. Let's see, there are about 14 centers here in North America, and the other centers are mostly in the Middle East and Saudi Arabia, but mostly in Rehab, but mostly in Western Europe so far. And we have distributor partnerships in Asia and South America. So one of the big challenges after getting FDA approval, and I'll talk a little bit more about that process, but was getting Medicare. You know, maybe when we first started this, the thought was, gosh, if we could make this, that'd be great. Then once we developed it, gosh, in order to get it to patients, we've got to get FDA approval. We always do, but then after getting FDA approval, we were really just starting, because then we needed to get someone to pay for it. We needed to get government. Typically, it's a very expensive device. It costs about $150,000 to plus another 15,000 or so for the surgery and the doctor. So it's pretty much only going to be available to patients that governments decide to reimburse and pay for it. So we've been fortunate. We've got Medicare. There's two sides of Medicare. There's Medicare Advantage, which you have to get pre-authorized case by case. So fortunately, about 90% of the patients that have applied to get pre-authorization have been approved and getting covered. There's another part of Medicare called traditional Medicare, and currently about 40% of the U.S. population are covered or can get this. And it's regional. There are 12 MAC regions that you have to go one by one to get the approval for. You can go nationally. Companies generally don't do that though, because if you go nationally and they say no, you're done. So typically they'll go region by region and gradually make products available. And we've also been fortunate in Europe, France, Germany, and regions of Italy are also currently paying for drugs too. But it's a big process. It's a lot of work to develop. Initially to develop all the clinical trial data to support reimbursement, and then to actually meet with all of these government agencies. So a little bit about the trial. So how did we get FDA approval? So we conducted a trial. We had 10 centers, so the trial was done in the U.S. and in Europe. And we implanted, because it was a rare disease, they allowed us to implant relatively few patients. We implanted 30 patients. We enrolled. It took us about 2 years to get those patients enrolled. Partly because halfway through the trial, we did 15 patients, and halfway through we realized there were some changes that we wanted to make. That can cause problems in clinical trials when you make changes mid-trial. Fortunately, the results were similar enough. Data, the first 15, the second 15, but it was a big part of the discussion with the FDA.
When you were designing those trials, obviously you thought it'd be huge. It also involved the insurance providers to make sure that they were going to accept your.
We didn't, and we should have. And we got lucky. And let's see, I don't think I have a slide on this, but we ended up getting lucky because the FDA was thinking about it. And so we started a trial in 2007. We were fully enrolled in 2009. So we had 1 year data in 2010. We went to the FDA with 1 year data, which is what the agreement was. We would do 1 year data set and said that we're ready to apply for market approval. And they said, no, you're not. We want you to come up with a measure of what is the real world impact of this product in the patient's life, which is what the reimbursers and the governments care about. So even though that really wasn't part of FDA's purview, and in retrospect, we probably could have fought them, I'm glad we didn't, because that data turned out to be really important for reimbursement. So we had to go back, and there was no accepted measure. So we actually had to go back, and we worked with the FDA and the vision specialists to come up with a new way of measuring that. And being a survey where low vision specialists would actually go into these patients' homes, watch them, see, and actually observe what they could do, talk to them about what they want to do, test them with device on, device off, and get a sense of, is this making an impact in their real world, in their data. I think I do have a slide later on that test. But so we ended up having that, but it wasn't by design. I think if we had thought about that from the beginning, certainly all of our future trials, that's an important part of the trial design, is thinking about what are people going to want in reimbursement, what are they going to have to show. So the regulatory pathway, there's for devices, there's 3 different approaches for FDA regulatory. There's the 510K, relatively straightforward devices that are low risk. There's PMA for devices like this that are implantable or high risk. And there's a third one, which is not very widely used for rare diseases. It's called humanitarian device exemption. This is the path that we chose, and it's essentially the same as PMA. If it's a high-risk device, which ours was, but they allow you to do a smaller trial. It's really the difference. So we didn't have to implant 200 patients or 1,000 patients. We were able to implant 30 patients. So I mean, that's a path. And technically, the other difference is that you're not showing safety and efficacy. You're showing safety and probable benefit. So the bar theoretically is lower, although in practice that's what it is. Against rare diseases, and also they did allow us to pull those changes. If it hadn't been a traditional PMA, they might not have allowed that. So one of the other challenges we talked about was measure of the real world benefit, but even assessing the basic functionality of the system was a challenge because the only thing that existed for assessing visual function was the traditional eye chart that was well accepted and used in tons of clinical trials. The problem for us is that this was measuring pretty high acuity, very good levels of vision, and we were taking patients who were completely blind, had no vision at all, and providing some vision. In some cases, kind of up to the top of the chart, but in many cases, kind of somewhere in this range. So how are we going to measure that? So we ended up developing, in cooperation with the FDA or in discussions with the FDA, several ways of assessing it. Clinicians had already assessed patients with these approaches. You know, somebody can go into an eye doctor, if you have really poor vision, they might ask you how many fingers, just to get an idea of which way is my hand moving, just to get an idea of how well someone can see. The FDA wanted us to quantify that, so we came up with a touchscreen approach where we would ask patients, we would pop up a spot of light on the screen, ask the patient, where do you see the spot of light? Which direction is the line moving? Which direction is this grading tilted? They also wanted, before they asked for real-world testing in their home environment, they wanted, quote, real-world testing in the lab. Some tests where you could assess their ability to actually use the vision. And so we came up with two tests. One was a door test, one was a line test. And the door test was the researchers would put the door in one of two locations. The patient would start at one end of the room and would have to walk. If they could touch the door, it was a successful test. And you saw in the video the line test. The line would either go straight, to the right, to the left. Really hard to do if you're blind. You just keep walking straight pretty much. And you had to be touching, the foot had to be touching the line to be a successful test. So here are the results. And actually, these are fairly recent results, but this is 5 years now post-implant. And what we were able to compare, each of these, the patient was their own control because they could turn the device on or off. And so with the device off, patients pretty much perform these tests at random. And with the device on, they consistently, even 5 years post-implant, perform these tests quite well. And these are just various tests. And you can see, importantly, and this has also been important to a lot of reimbursers, the results are sustained over a long period of time. So that reliability, that high level of reliability that the FDA insisted on, also helped us because no one wants to pay $150,000 if it's only going to last 6 months or a year. We did some additional research. This was more out of curiosity, is whether patients could read large letters. It turns out, published in the British Journal of Ophthalmology, a high percentage, about 70-80% of these patients can actually read characters or simple words. Data. We're also curious about what patients can do in the real world, so we asked them to sort socks, gray, white, black socks. They can do that quite well. We asked them to follow test their abilities to track along a sidewalk. They could do that well. Tell which way a person was moving. They could do that well. Some of the data on each of these. And this was the test that we came up with the FDA that I was talking about earlier, that tested the device in the real world. And it was really intended to be a measure of the quality of life improvement. It took a long time. It took about they typically spent 4 to 6 hours with the patient assessing them before they're coming up with the conclusion about whether it had a real world impact or not.
Can I ask a question about that?
Yeah.
So what kind of technician actually was with the patient during these tests? Was that a rehab specialist? A low
Rehab
vision?
specialist. So typically it was a low vision specialist. There's a whole kind of subset of rehab that works with low vision patients. And typically what they're doing is they're getting patients who had normal vision at one time, have lost it, now have low vision, and they're training them to use their low level of vision most effectively. And so those same folks now are taking patients who are completely blind, are now getting some low level of vision restored, and are teaching them how to maximally use them. We didn't realize how important that community was until we actually did this test. And so during our clinical trial, we didn't have any rehab. After the patients would get the device, we would adjust it for each patient, and then that was it. We sent them home. Now, after doing this flora and working with these rehab specialists, now we actually recommend rehab for every patient. So we recommend that they spend time with therapists to maximize the utility of the vision. And fortunately, we were actually really nervous in developing this because we didn't know how it was going to turn out. Unfortunately, a very high percentage, 77%, had a positive real-world impact. Not everybody, and there were about 23% that had there were no negative effects, but 23% had a neutral effect, so weren't able to use the system in their daily life effectively. So kind of the upshot was that the study demonstrated that the benefits outweighed the risks, and the FDA approved the device in 2013 after having convening a panel of experts to assess this. So what's next? What are we working on today at Second Sight? So one of the things that we're developing and hope to release next year is a new external, so a new pair of glasses, a new processor, and this will allow a few things. A lot of patients, particularly in Europe, a lot of the older patients in Europe complained about the Oakley glasses. They were a little bit too high tech, a little bit too funky, and so we're providing now a more traditional pair of glasses. The camera is more hidden. A lot of these blind patients, we I think initially assumed that all that would matter was that they'd be able to see again, and the aesthetics wouldn't matter. And it turns out they're people like the rest of us, and they care a lot about how they look and how other people view them, and so they don't want to look different. They want to look normal. And so that was a big goal in designing these new glasses. And usability and reliability are also obviously all very important. The digital cameras have progressed quite a bit, and so we're able to use a digital camera. Our original camera was actually an analog camera, and importantly, the processor in our old system was about 15 years old. So you can imagine a 15-year-old computer versus today. This is going to allow us to do a lot more image processing, a lot more, hopefully improve the quality of the vision. Yeah, sure.
So for those updates, do you have to what kind of regulatory work has to be done to get that?
Great question. So everything has to go through the FDA in the U.S. So to upgrade this system, we'll have to apply to the FDA. And so we're hoping probably in the first quarter of next year we'll send in this application. The amount of scrutiny depends a lot on the risk, though, to the patient typically. So for a change like this, it'll get some scrutiny, and we have to go through a defined development process for it. But it won't get as much scrutiny as an implant, for instance, and because the risk is lower. If you screw this up, you can download if you have a bug in the code, you can download a new piece of code. If you screw up the implant, it could mean that the patient might have to undergo surgery again to replace the device. So the amount, it is reviewed. It's considered a supplement rather than, so it's not a brand new submission. It won't have to go to panel, but they do look at everything, and it does add to the time and cost of developing improvements for sure.
Your previous slide talked about 20% unsuccessful treatment. So it's have no positive effect. How attributable is that to the diagnosis?
It's a great question. So one of the things that we did during this trial, and we probably now that we have, this was only 26 subjects, there were a few that either didn't want to participate in this additional test or were explanted because of medical reasons. but one of the questions we tried to assess here was what made a good patient, what made a quote bad patient, what were the difference between these? And partially because there were only 26 subjects, we weren't able to figure it out. We had a lot of guesses that maybe it was how long they were blind, maybe it was a type of the exact gene that they had, because in retinitis pigmentosa, there are about 140 different gene variants. Some of them are more severe and trash the retina more. So we speculated that maybe that was, maybe these were ones whose retinas were trashed more. Maybe they've been blind longer. Maybe they were older. Maybe they were less educated. We had a lot of theories, and with 26 subjects, we really couldn't figure it out. Now that we have 200, it's something that we do want to go back and look at again to try to figure out, because this has stayed fairly consistent, where the vast majority get benefit, but not everybody does. So it's kind of one of these ongoing questions: can you more accurately target? And it's something that folks that think about reimbursement are interested in also, right? Because if you could predict who gets a benefit, then you wouldn't have to implant these patients. You wouldn't put them through surgery, save the cost. But so far we haven't been able to do that. So I mentioned macular degeneration earlier. It's a more prevalent disease, but it's a little bit different than retinitis pigmentosa. So retinitis pigmentosa is an awful disease. Typically, patients will get diagnosed in their 20s. So imagine you're in your 20s, some are, and you'll, one of you are maybe, and you guys imagine having just a little bit of trouble seeing at night. You go to your eye doctor thinking, oh, I need glasses, and instead you're told that no, you don't need glasses, but you're going to go blind. And the way you're going to go blind is your world's going to gradually close in on yourself over the next 20 years until you're completely blind. So awful diagnosis to get, and it's hereditary. So it means not only if someone is the first person to be diagnosed, their children are likely to get it. And the macular degeneration is a little bit different. It occurs much later in life. So typically in patients get diagnosed in their 60s. And the way these patients typically don't go completely blind. They lose their central vision, which is incredibly frustrating. So everywhere you look, imagine is black, but they keep a lot of peripheral vision, so they can actually get around quite well, and they can use their peripheral vision kind of awkwardly, but they can still function fairly well. So the bar is higher for these patients for that reason, because they have some residual vision. So we began testing last year patients with macular degeneration. This is some photographs of the arrays sitting in the retina. So actually here you can see this is the cable, this is the electrode array, and this is the optic nerve head. So it is where the optic nerve kind of leaves the eye. You can see a lot of blood vessels. These are normal blood vessels in the eye, but what's not normal is this kind of black spot that these macular degeneration patients get. And so we were, we wondered a lot of things in this small trial. We wanted to know, first, is it going to be safe? Is it going to somehow damage their residual vision? And could the patients integrate this crude pixelated vision with their normal peripheral vision? And so far it turns out the answers are it is safe. The patients don't seem to lose their residual vision. It's hard to accurately assess it because all the tools that assess vision are focused on central vision. So, but as best we can tell, they're having no impact on residual vision. They are able to integrate the two, and they like it. They seem to enjoy looking at people. They've described being able to tell whether a person's mouth is open or closed, seeing outlines of heads, and watching TV. So it's early days, but it looks like patients like it, get benefit. Our big challenge is going to be showing that the benefit, the real-world benefit, is above and beyond what they already have peripherally. And so I think that's going to be the challenge in macular degeneration. And then I mentioned earlier the Orion, the device we call the Orion, which is the modified version, but it directly stimulates the brain. So in this one, the device will sit in the skull, the electronics will sit in the skull, and the device will, the electrode array, which you can see is a different geometry, surface, the middle surface of the brain. And we'll be applying, so we've done this in animals now for a couple of years, and we'll be applying later this year to human patients.
So you've done your own assessments for your original trials. You know, the animal trials too.
So the animal trials, our approach to Yale, it's actually a pretty common question. How do you know what the animals see? And the answer is we don't. And we actually don't try to assess what the animals are actually seeing. The animal studies, our use of the animal studies were pure safety. So the approach was, does it cause any harm? So in these animal studies, the animals are implanted initially with passive devices, just mechanical prototypes. And we look for mechanical damage. We look at histology, look under the microscope and see if there's any microscopic damage. We're having a physical device there. And then we implant active devices, so devices that are actually fully functional and electrically stimulated. And again, look for any damage. And if there's no damage microscopically, then we go to patients. I think our approach has always been to try to test devices in patients as quickly as possible because you really don't know. A lot of the problems, a lot of companies end up failing because they spend too long solving problems in animals and that are not truly problems in patients. So our goal is always to try to get the patients as quickly as possible. And it's only then that you learn what the real challenges are. There's similarities, but and I can give you one example of that. We spent 2 years trying to solve that one plywood tissue paper problem. We kept tearing retinas of animals. It turned out that the human retinas are a little tougher than the animal retinas were. So we were still having some problems in animal retinas when we went to patients. It was much better, and we didn't have any problems in patients. But in retrospect, we could have gotten patients a lot earlier. Some of our earlier designs probably would have worked in patients. And we never really have that too much with patients. That's the story. Good question. Yeah, so the company today is about 120 employees. We've got 100 here in Los Angeles and about 20 in Lausanne, Switzerland, which is our sales and marketing office for Europe. The products are all manufactured here in the U.S., here in LA. So the company is based in Sylmar. It's in the San Fernando Valley, northeast San Fernando Valley. So about 45 minutes from here. At least this morning, about 45 minutes to get here. With traffic going. I was going against traffic. But yeah, we manufacture everything right here in LA. So it was one of the things that was really important to our co-founder, Alessia, who also founded a number of other companies in the Valley and other device companies in the Valley. And so it would be cheaper to build these elsewhere, but we're building them still at relatively low volumes. So we've planted a couple hundred of these so far. So the benefits of going, even the financial benefits wouldn't be that great going somewhere else. And the quality, being able to control the quality is really important, obviously, for something like this.
So I saw that you were also the founder of Pulse as well.
Yeah, I'm actually not one of the founders of Pulse, but I am on the board.
So that also deals with like electrical machines to sell. Do you ever get breakthroughs in that one company that might be applied to the second side or vice versa?
So I'll just briefly talk about Pulse Biosciences. So there's another public company that I'm on the board of that is also a spin out in Los Angeles. It's based in the Bay Area. And what they're doing is electrically stimulating patients for skin applications, dermatology applications, and oncology applications. So the idea is it's nanopulses, so very short pulses that looks like they have an effect on the immune system. So what they've been able to do is electrically stimulate tumor cells, and then if they re-inject tumor cells in mice so far, elsewhere in the body, the tumor cells won't regrow. So there's some sort of immunologic effect, but it's very short pulses. It's a relatively new company. They're just now completing their first product. They'll be applying for FDA approval for it. So they haven't yet been any synergies, but my hope, of course, being involved in both of them, is that there would be some potential synergies in the products. It's a very different kind of product. It's an external system right now, so it's not a fully implantable system, and it's more of a treatment than a therapy, making a distinction. But because in Pulse, we're directly trying to stimulate or treat the disease directly. And in Second Sight, we're not really treating the disease. The underlying disease is not really changed. It's more of a prosthesis or something that helps the patients from blind. Although there are a few companies that are trying to electrically stimulate blind patients to try to treat the disease itself. We've looked for effects of the electrical stimulation. Some people believe that the electrical stimulation itself might help the disease. We haven't seen it in our hands, but certainly possible.
I was going to ask why you chose to enter the European market. It's small.
Yeah, good question. So our sales right now are about 50-50. So about half of our sales are from Europe. And it kind of makes sense if you look at where our centers are, why the sales are about 50-50. Europe so it was easier. We got approval in Europe, regulatory approval in 2011. And it was 2 years later that we got approval here in the U.S. A lot of companies will get regulatory approval in Europe, but then won't commercialize in Europe. And the reason why it's very expensive to commercialize in Europe. In the U.S., there's one payer. It's through the entire country, and it's similar populations. Europe is a little bit larger. It's about 1.6 times the 300 something million people in the U.S. But the challenge in Europe is that there's one approval for all of Europe today, so that's easy. But the reimbursement is country by country. So we've had to go country by country to get reimbursement in each region. So it's expensive. We've started using partners. We have a partner in Spain, a partner in Turkey to seek reimbursement. But if I had it to do over again, would we commercialize in Europe? I still probably would, and I think the reason why it was beneficial for us is that it allowed us to figure out the commercial model earlier than because we had a 2-year head start. So we kind of figured out how are we going to work with the doctors, what do the patients have to do. So it's not the actual commercial model is actually fairly complex. It's more complex than we anticipated. We thought, oh, you implant this and patients go home. Turns out it's more complicated because you implant it and then somebody has to adjust the device for each patient. So there's a fitting procedure, just like fitting glasses, where an optometrist says which is better, 1 or 2. We have to adjust the thresholds on all 60 electrodes. Turns out to be different on every patient. So there's a fitting process, and now we know that rehab is important. So there's also a rehab process. So at each center, we have to identify someone who's going to do surgery, which we do, but also someone who's going to do the fitting, and someone who's going to do the rehab, and then we need to train the center. So figuring all that out took some time, and I think if we hadn't launched in Europe, we would have been figuring that out in the U.S. So it allowed us to go quicker. Plus, it allowed us to get some early revenue to help offset the R&D costs. But it is expensive to commercialize in Europe, and a lot of companies decide not to. Great question.
Do you predict greater opportunity for expansion of indications using the direct brain stimulation?
We do. So the thought is that we can treat RT and AMD with the current device, but with the brain stimulation, we should be able to access almost 6 million patients. So essentially treat all forms of blindness. So from all causes, because you're directly bypassing. So that includes, I mentioned before, glaucoma, infection, anything that damages the eye, optic nerve, diabetic retinopathy. So we should be able to, and it's one of the reasons we're very excited about it, is we should be able to treat a lot more patients.
Will you be able to do any kind of combined studies through the FDA, or is every single indication going to, you think, have to have its own clinical trial and study?
That's a great question. It's something we're talking to the FDA about right now is what are the inclusion criteria for this trial? Because it's so many different diseases, we're kind of breaking, and this is not new territory for us. We're kind of breaking new ground. Is our approach that we've been talking with the FDA about is because it's a general approach to restore vision, and it's not actually treating the disease. We would like our inclusion criteria to be broad for essentially any blindness. And I think where we're going to end up, and we're still discussing this with them, but I think where we're going to end up is probably a compromise where it is for all blindness, but there's a list of the types of blindness. So, for instance, we don't want to treat these patients with the cortical device because they have an alternative. They have a device that can go in the eye. So, but for patients who have no alternative, it makes a lot of sense. So that's probably where we're going to end up. So, but it is an interesting dilemma that I think the FDA is wrestling with. We're wrestling with them to try to figure out, because normally you have a product for a disease and they're mapped one-to-one. This will be the first time where something is a little bit more general.
Just one more question. What does the competitive landscape look like, and how has it evolved over time? Because now I imagine you probably have a lot of follow-on competitors, and this is brain stimulation is a growing space in and of itself.
Yeah, we do. So the actually I have a slide that I'll pull it up, but so there are two other companies in the retina stimulation space in Europe. There's a company in France and one in Germany. Both companies have recently gotten European approval to market their products, and they have similar approaches. One of them has an almost identical copy of ours, and the other one has a modified cochlear implant, where they have a cochlear implant to an electrode that goes into the eye, which is actually a test I didn't talk about, but the first test that we did in patients was a modified cochlear implant. So those, we think those are both cruder systems. As best we can tell, those devices haven't solved the television in the ocean problem. They've had a lot of patient failures, and so neither have been able to start a trial in the U.S. because of that. The FDA has a high reliability bar, and that's been helpful to us. But there are other efforts around the world, a lot of academic efforts, and early stage startups as well. In the brain stimulation space, there are really no commercial efforts other than ours. There are a few academic efforts around the world, but it's still relatively early. There are several companies working on brain stimulation in general. There's a company, Neuropace, based in the Bay Area, that has a brain stimulator for epilepsy. Medtronic, St. Jude, all the big neurostimulation companies all have brain stimulators for Parkinson's. But for vision, we're the only corporate program today that has it's like anything. As soon as in the early days when we were working on retinal stimulation, there were really no other efforts either. And as soon as we showed patient data where the patients could see, all of a sudden became a lot of interest globally. The Australian government started a $50 million effort because they have the largest cochlear implant company in the world. So they invested in retinal implants pretty heavily about a decade ago when we first showed patient data.